Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're embarking on quite a journey, I think, into this concept of living knowledge. We all try to understand things, gather information, but what if real knowledge isn't just about collecting stuff? What if it's about how it actually lives inside us, transforms us? Our guide for this is Chapter 04, The Living Knowledge, from Imam al-Sadiq's famous work, Lantern of the Path. And our mission, well, it isn't just to summarize it. We want to really get into what it means for knowledge to be so vital, so alive, that it changes how we see everything, how we act.
It's a remarkable text.
Yeah.
It really is. Right away, it pushes our idea of knowledge beyond just, facts and figures. We're not talking about simply loading up on data here.
Yeah.
This is about exploring a really deep, timeless kind of wisdom. And this work, it offers such a unique view, suggesting knowledge isn't just something you have, it's part of who you are.
Yeah, and according to these teachings, this living knowledge, it's not like an optional add-on. It's framed as the very foundation, the bedrock of every noble state, every worthwhile thing we strive for. And it's a light, a guide, not just for life here and now, but for, well, what comes after, too. It's a huge promise, isn't it, that deep knowing can light up your whole path.
That is a bold claim right from the outset. The text literally starts by calling knowledge the foundation of every noble state and the goal of every high station, and a light for the human being in this world and the next. I mean, what does that actually mean? For knowledge to have that kind of fundamental power beyond just information, it means we're discussing something much more intrinsic, deeper than just intellectual exercise. And it connects, doesn't it, with that teaching from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that seeking knowledge is a duty for every Muslim man and woman. It's universal, yes, but it forces the next question. If it's the duty, what knowledge is the most important, the essential stuff?
Exactly. That's the crux of it, isn't it? If we're all called to seek knowledge, what should we be prioritizing? What's the most important thing to learn?
And the book gives a very specific, maybe even surprising answer. It says the key knowledge is the knowledge of precaution, taqwa, and certainty. That immediately shifts the focus. We're not talking about memorizing, say, historical events or scientific formulas here. This is personal, deeply personal. It suggests this knowledge isn't really about looking outward, but undertaking an inner journey. It's about understanding the truth of our own selves. So it requires, introspection, self-discovery, not just absorbing external facts. And that distinction, it's absolutely central to everything in this chapter.
This idea of an internal quest, it puts a whole new spin on a very well-known teaching. Many of us know Imam Ali's advice, seek knowledge, though it be in China. For ages, people took that literally. Travel the world, go find learning. But this text, it flips that. It interprets China not as a place on the map, but as the depths within us, saying we should go to any length, metaphorically, to find the knowledge of our own soul. That's quite a reframe. And this inner journey connects straight to another famous saying from the Prophet, whoever knows his own self knows his Lord. So suddenly, self-knowledge isn't just about self-help or personal growth. It's presented as a pathway, a way to understand something vastly greater than ourselves. How does that change things?
It changes everything, doesn't it? If knowing yourself is the route to knowing the divine, then the most profound learning isn't accumulation, it's revelation from within. It makes self-reflection more than just, a psychological tool. It becomes a spiritual necessity. Our inner world becomes this vast, critical landscape to explore.
Okay, so we've talked about what this living knowledge is, this deep, self-aware understanding. Now, the text brings in its constant partner, action. And it's really emphatic here. Knowledge and action are just two sides of the same coin, completely inseparable, like you said earlier, maybe like breathing in and out, you need both.
Absolutely. They're presented as a single unit, really. And to make sure that action is, well, right, the text adds another vital piece of knowledge, sincerity. It says point blank. Without it, no action is correct. Which really highlights that it's not just what you do, but the why behind it. Your intention is everything. And this sheds light on that other teaching from the Prophet's Harriet, doesn't it? To seek refuge with Allah from knowledge which has no benefit. This book defines that useless knowledge precisely as knowledge that is not matched by sincere action. Strong statement, really. Knowledge that doesn't lead to genuine, well-intentioned action is basically empty. Sterile.
Wow. And the analogy the text uses for this is so clear, so vivid. It says, to know what is right but not to do it is like owning a map but refusing to take the journey. The map is useless unless you use it to walk the path. That just cuts right through, doesn't it? But practically speaking, how do we do that? How do we end up owning the map but just staying put? Why don't we always act on what we know is right?
Well, I think often it's about comfort zones, isn't it? Or fear.
Yeah.
Or maybe the knowledge hasn't quite sunk in deep enough to create real conviction. We might know the way to, say, be more patient or healthier or more spiritually connected. But actually walking that path takes effort. It can be uncomfortable. It means changing. The map shows the route, yes, but it's sincerity, it's resolve that actually gets your feet moving.
Yeah.
Without that, knowledge can feel abstract, maybe even a bit overwhelming.
That makes a lot of sense. And here's something else from the text that really made me pause. It's this kind of paradox. It says, a small amount of true knowledge requires a great deal of action. That sort of flips conventional wisdom, right? We usually think more knowledge is better, more powerful. But this suggests that the quality, the depth, the truth of the knowledge might demand much more from us in terms of doing than just having tons of information.
It's a real challenge to how we often operate today in this information age. It suggests that truly deep insights, transformative ones, even just a few, can change everything. But they demand constant, sincere effort to live by them. It pulls us away from just passively consuming information towards actively, living it. It implies that real knowledge isn't some medal you wear, it's a seed, and you have to water it constantly with action.
And if we don't water that seed, if we have the knowledge but not the action, the text is quite blunt about the downsides. It shares this incredibly powerful story attributed to Jesus, peace be upon him. He finds a stone, it says, turn me over. So he does. And on the other side, it reads, whoever does not act by what he knows will be doomed by seeking what he does not know, and his own knowledge will be turned against him.
Oof. That's a heavy warning. It's not just saying you missed out. It's saying the knowledge you do have, if you don't act on it, becomes harmful. A burden. The idea of your own knowledge turning against you, that suggests this deep accountability. Like the truth you possess actually highlights your failure to live up to it. A kind of self-betrayal almost.
It really sticks with you, that image. And the text doesn't stop there with the warnings. It mentions another serious consequence. It talks about a revelation God gave to the prophet David, saying that the smallest consequence for a scholar who doesn't act on their knowledge is to have the sweetness of remembering God removed from their heart. Just the smallest consequence, losing that joy, that connection that feels profound. It suggests the accountability goes right to the core of our spiritual life. What does that tell us about what knowledge is really for?
It tells us that knowledge, true knowledge, isn't just an intellectual thing. It's fundamentally spiritual. It's meant to be a pathway to connection, to inner peace, to that sweetness. And when you neglect the action part of the equation, that pathway gets blocked. A light goes out. It implies a loss of something vital, a spiritual cost for just knowing things without letting them change you. Intellectual complacency has a price.
Okay, so the stakes are high. Inaction is serious. So how do we recognize someone who actually has this living knowledge, if it's not just about debating skills?
Yeah, the text is very specific about this. It says a truly knowledgeable person is not recognized by their ability to debate or by the claims they make. So it's not about how well they argue or what titles they have or how much they say they know. Instead, it's their character. Simple as that. Their sound actions, their pure prayers, their truthfulness, and their mindfulness speak for them. It's something you see in how they live. It's embodied, woven into who they are. A quiet testament, not a loud announcement.
That shifts the focus entirely from outward show to inner reality. And the text gives us a kind of historical model for this, too. It recalls that the knowledge seekers of the past, the really genuine ones, were known for a whole package of qualities: intellect, piety, wisdom, and humility. It paints this picture of learning as something holistic, engaging the whole person, not just the brain. And it even gets practical about teaching and learning this kind of knowledge. It lists qualities needed for a teacher. Intellect, kindness, compassion, and patience. Sounds like a pretty amazing teacher, right? And for the student, a deep desire to learn, a willing heart, piety, and the resolution to see the journey through. It sounds like a real partnership built on virtue.
It really does paint a complete picture. It suggests that sharing and receiving this kind of deep knowledge is itself a moral, even spiritual undertaking. And ultimately, the text circles back to the grand purpose. It says there is no path to Allah except through knowledge. Knowledge is an adornment for a person in this world and the next, and it is the vehicle that drives them to paradise. It connects everything, the inner search, the character, the actions, to the ultimate goal. So the core message really seems to be this. True knowledge is not something we simply possess. It is something that lives through us. It is the adornment of our character and the guide that leads us back to our source. It's not just thinking, it's being. It defines us and directs us.
Wow. What an incredibly rich deep dive that was into the living knowledge from Lantern of the Path. This text just completely reframes knowledge, doesn't it? From something we collect to something that well, lives, a force that shapes who we are and what we do. So maybe the invitation for all of us listening is to reflect a bit. Look at the knowledge, the insights, the truths you hold. Which of those in your life are truly alive? Which ones are actually sparking sincere action, shaping your character, guiding how you move through the world?
Yeah, and maybe a final thought to leave you with, drawing from these powerful ideas. If our deepest knowledge is meant to be this inner light, this guide, how can we be more intentional about cultivating that inner journey of self-discovery? And perhaps ask yourself, what map are you holding right now that's quietly asking you to start walking its path?
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope it sparked some new thoughts, maybe some new actions, and encourages you on your own journey of living knowledge.